I got to kick this thing off. Can I kick it off? 1, 2, 3, 4. Ladies and gentlemen, listen.
What's up, everybody? You are now tuned into another episode of the Man Listen Show. Before we get started, let's hear a few words from our sponsors.
DD's Daiquiris is your #1 supplier of premium daiquiri mixes. You will love the taste of our classic margarita and signature strawberry mixes. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at DD's Daiquiris. DD is spelled D-E-E-D-E-E. You can also find us at www.dd'sdaiquiris.com. DD's Daiquiris, giving good vibes to good people, one good drink at a time.
More Grace Counseling and Mediation Services offers individual and relationship counseling as well as mediation services to the community. At More Grace, healthy partnerships are valuable and beneficial. Please visit the website www.moregracecounseling.com for more information about our approach to counseling. More Grace Counseling and Mediation Services, where we offer more grace and more healing.
Please buy the new book by Arika Nicole Moore, Diabolical Tales of Woe. Diabolical Tales of Woe is a thrilling collection of short horror stories that leave you in an excited trepidation to see what will happen next. Prepare to face one horrific encounter after the next in this captivating novel. You can find this book on Amazon in the Kindle and paperback version. That is Diabolical Tales of Woe by Arika Nicole Moore. Are you looking for a virtual assistant who can help you with your scheduling, travel, research, and expenses? Demi Virtual Solutions is the answer for you. Demi Virtual Solutions also provides mobile notary services. They will travel to take care of your needs. So if you are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and need a virtual assistant or are looking for mobile notary services, contact them at 469-522-9005, and you can find them on their website at demivirtualsolutions.com. That's DEMI virtualsolutions.com. Are you in the state of Texas and looking for a knowledgeable loan advisor that will walk you through the process from application to closing? Well, then you need to contact Joe Byers at Trinity Oaks Mortgage. Trinity Oaks Mortgage offers FHA, VA, and conventional loans. They also have a first-time homebuyers program available. There is also down payment assistance available as well. Make sure you contact Joe Byers at Trinity Oaks Mortgage. You can reach Joe at 972-512-8990. Conversate with Us Radio presents the Man Listen Show. We are the blackest radio show on the internet. We bring you our opinion on topics that affect the black community in an effort to enlighten, enrich, and empower every brother and sister that falls under the sound of our voice. We operate on the no hating frequency, so be prepared for us to keep it 100% real and 100% black all the time. Please follow the show on social media at Man Listen. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can listen to the show on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, basically everywhere you can find a podcast. Please share the show and use the hashtag Man Listen. I'm your host, Mark B. Let me go ahead and bring the crew in. All right, on today's show, we're going to talk about the NFL. We just got through with the Super Bowl, and as most of y'all know, we have a bunch of Chiefs fans on this show, and so it's a very sad situation. But we thought it was a good idea to talk about the NFL, talk about the season, and just give our thoughts on a topic that we talked about a lot on this show. To help us talk about today, we have a very special guest, Mr. Matt Whitener. He is the co-host of the Scenario Sports on the SLOC network and a columnist for Yard Barker and the Whole Game. Matt, what up, man?
What's the word, man? Appreciate y'all having me.
Man, this is one for the record books. This will probably be the only time we have a Kappa on the show, but you made the cut. So,
the funny thing about that is that we got a politics show over on my network, and we say that it's not only been almost Kappa exclusive so far. I said there's been light-skinned Kappa exclusive. So I guess we stand on brand. Man. But we're having an alpha on actually this week, so I'm glad that like serendipity is making this work. We're in a time when a lot of people ain't working across the aisle. We're figuring out a way to do it here, so I'm with it.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So let's go ahead, man, and get started. You know, Super Bowl just finished, man, and former President Trump's boy won the Super Bowl. Tampa Bay Bucks put it on our cheeks, put them on pretty good. And one thing that I saw, there was a picture floating around social media of the Tampa Bay Bucks coaching staff. A lot of diversity. You got the offensive and the defensive coordinator, black people, a bunch of other black coaches. I think you even have at least one, if not two, women on the staff as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were promoting that as this is diversity in the league, which I always thought was a little bit funny. And I didn't know how I felt about it because I know just a couple of weeks ago we were talking about how the head coaching ranks, how it was so much of a joke that there are more brothers holding the position for head coach. So I felt some type of way about this picture being shared. I was happy for all those brothers and all those women because obviously they're employed, making money, you know, they're able to build their resume. But people were promoting it as if it was something that is to be celebrated as the NFL is doing the right thing. So I want to start off, Matt, and then we'll get the crew to come in. What's your opinion on that? I mean, this picture was shared around and people was talking about this is a good thing. And I'm a little bit conflicted, man. So what's your thoughts?
So before we talk about the picture, I want to talk a little bit about, let me throw a little numbers at you here because I think that it colors some of the things that you're talking about. So we had 7 head coaching vacancies this offseason. We ended up with 1 black hire, meaning that if you took every team in the NFL, you went to the AFC, NFC championships, you would not have enough black head coaches to be able to fill that out. That's ugly. It doesn't even matter. There's no way you could even have a division in the league that has enough black coaches in it. So we got a ways to go. We did make some grounds up in front office. There were, I believe, 3 black GMs that were hired this year. Hopefully good things will follow there. I definitely believe in having top to bottom change. So while it might not be as evident on the sidelines, it is evident in places it's never been before. So I don't want to discredit that. But in regards to that picture, it's nice. I like it. It's a good thing to see. However, it underscores a bigger problem to me that I was having throughout this entire really season, but definitely leading into the offseason, where you heard a lot about Eric Bieniemy, and I think rightfully so. What he did made a huge difference in the success that's happened in Kansas City over the last handful of seasons, and he should be up for that due because that's usually how it works, right? You know, you have a great unit, you win titles, the assistants get the next job. We didn't see that here. However, the big problem I had this offseason was that you had a whole lot of other people that were eligible that should have been getting that shine. Todd Bowles, Byron Leftwich, they were in that picture. It kind of looks like a Brady bunch of black diversity, if you will, how that thing is getting passed around. But you also had Leslie Frazier. You had, a handful of other coaches that should have been getting that due. But so much of that spotlight was put on Bieniemy. I think that we inadvertently stumbled into a token type of situation here where a lot of other people didn't get that due. And unfortunately, now things have come and gone and they still didn't get it. So I'm indifferent at best about that.
I don't really credit the NFL for making that coaching staff so diverse. I think that was more or less Tampa's head coach. Those are the people that he thought was the best and probably people he had around him. And then, he chose to test his privilege and see if, if it was going to make him look bad or not if he hired a lot of people that didn't look like him. So I think a lot of other coaches are still kind of scared. The NFL just outed Kaepernick just, a few years ago. So it really isn't that, I guess, open, I guess I should say, as we think it is. It's just black players. Like he said, there's not a lot of black coaches.
Yeah, I agree. I think also, you mentioned something, you said credit the NFL and you can't, it was Tampa Bay, not the NFL that put that coaching staff together. And to me, that's always in my mind is that the NFL is 32 distinct individual owners, right? So ultimately Roger Goodell works for the owners. He doesn't work for the league. I mean, he works for the league. He works for the owners, not for the coaches, not for the players. So no matter what he says, he's going to get he's going to get the down, discredited if black coaches aren't hired, but it's really not up to him. It's up to the owners. And like Matt was saying, I think it starts with the front offices, because a lot of times they've been saying the coaches don't interview well. Tony Dungy had a story where he went through that process like being and he was like, everybody was like, he doesn't interview well. Well, if you see Tony Dungy on TV, I can't imagine him not being able to interview well. So it's because the people in the rooms didn't look like him. And I'm hopeful, like Matt saying, that this front office jobs leads to more opportunities.
So my thing is, though, as the representation of all of the people of color helping win the Super Bowl looks great aesthetically, to me, it kind of was reminiscent of that picture from the old days where that white man is sitting on the ass of that black woman. And it's like, basically, you just rode all the efforts and hard work of the handcrafted staff that you picked to the Super Bowl. So while you're getting accolades for being the oldest white man to win the Super Bowl, when you look behind you, every single person that got you to this point is a black man, basically. And they're not getting any of the credit. They're not going to become head coaches for it. And it's like, once again, we've lifted up this person who doesn't deserve the credit, and we're not going to receive any benefits from it, except for maybe a picture saying, hey, look at how far we've come. We would have come far if we were the head coach and then all the staff. Right now, we're still the staff. We're still employed by the head coach, but that's just how I felt about it when I saw it.
See, the problem I have with it is I remember, and we're all pretty much the same age, but I remember when there was a time when there was a serious doubt if a black man could be a quarterback. You remember how they used to say we didn't think on our toes, we weren't sharp enough, we weren't smart enough to command the offense. And you kind of still see that. You still see that when you see guys coming out of college who will play the quarterback position, and because they don't play it like traditionally, like, Peyton Manning or Tom Brady do, they say, okay, well, you need to move to the wide receiver position. And to me, I don't know if that's a direct correlation or if it's the exact same thing when you're talking about the head coach, but I do believe it's somewhat similar. That can a black man run an organization, run a team, and do it the same as an old white man can? And that's the problem that I have with it. And I think with the Rooney Rule, there's supposed to be systems put into place to make sure that black people are getting the opportunities to go for those positions. But like Matt said, I think what's happening is turning into more so of a token system, where it says, let us get this out the way. Man, and I think all of us have been in this situation, right? Where you apply for a position or you apply for the job and they say, man, you're excellent, you're everything we wanted. This guy, this woman over here, she just edged you out just by a little bit.
Not a good fit.
It's not a good fit. I definitely heard that one. So that's the issue I have with this whole deal, and that's why I wanted to ask the question. But yeah, you brought up.
Hey, Marv, let me play devil's advocate real quick though.
Okay, go ahead, bro.
Because there's certainly another aspect of this as well. And I'll preface this by saying I don't know Bruce Arians. I've got no hair in the game about what that looks like. But there is something to say for people that decide to not just to silently make change. Because here's one thing I'll say, is that, I follow all 32 teams throughout the year. And I never once until recently saw there be any promotion about that, about Ty Bowles, who used to be the head coach for the Jets. You've got Byron Leftwich, who was an All-American at Marshall, who was an NFL quarterback himself, and a handful of other people that definitely bring their accolades to the table, including the female coaches that are there, because that's certainly something that's getting a lot of light shined on it as well and open up some doors. But here's one thing I will give Bruce Arians credit for, is that he didn't use that as an opportunity for him to say, well, look at what I'm doing. That's other people doing that. That's other people putting that out there. So I mean, it takes a difference-making leader on the sideline to coach a team to an NFL championship. There's no way you win a Super Bowl without a coach that makes a difference there. So he definitely carried his weight in a part of that. And he never at one time asked for credit for that. And I have a bigger problem when there's those type of people that are like, look at what I did, though. you know,
Right.
and I don't get that from Bruce Arians. And here's the thing, actually, the way Bruce Arians rocking them Kangos and things like that, I feel like Bruce Arians knows where all the good happy hours is at in Tampa. He probably is just like, what else am I supposed to do? Because Bruce Arians got that very rare look of that white dude that prefers cognac. So I mean, I'm not gonna take it away from him because I think he just ended up putting the best people in the position, and look at how it played out for him. It's more of an
Yeah.
example to me than well, hey, I did it because of this type of thing. That's just my thought.
You know what? I can agree with that, man, because definitely we've seen that, systems like, institutions like the NFL could definitely be a good old boy network. So I definitely can agree with you that we can give him props for that. But I'll tell you this, he was getting kind of close to it. He still can't come to the cookout. We don't believe that. That's a show. He can drink all the cognac and wear all the Kangos he wants. He ain't coming to the cookout.
Bruce Arians got that look at that dude to play the bass in his spare time. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna put it right there.
I got you. Y'all brought up Roger Goodell, and I think we got to talk about it. Roger Goodell said that he had wished that they had listened to Colin Kaepernick sooner when everything happened last summer with the George Floyd incident and the uprisings and the marches and that happened right after the George Floyd murder up in Minnesota. And we know that Colin still isn't employed by the league and probably won't be employed by the league. I don't know if he even wants to be anymore. I think he's kind of moved on from that. And I'll put it out there, Matt. I was a person on the show who boycotted. I don't think did any of y'all boycott at all? I don't think any of y'all boycotted. I boycotted.
Not for that reason. Yeah.
I boycotted the NFL. I'm a huge Kansas City Chiefs fan. I didn't watch my first game watching the NFL since Colin Kaepernick was blackballed from the league. Was when the Chiefs played in the Super Bowl last year. That's what brought me back to the league. And we talked about it. We had a show when we talked about when Kaepernick settled with the league. He kind of rubbed me the wrong way when he had an all-white attorney legal team. And I was like, I don't know. And some of the steps he was making with the tryout, I was like, But being out, I realized that the NFL didn't really resonate with me like it used to before they did what they did to Kaepernick. I know you were St. Louis boy, so, baseball and the Cardinals is important to you, but I kind of treat the NFL now like I do Major League Baseball. I watch it in October when the playoffs are on, when it's exciting, but I'm not really watching it throughout the year. That's how I'm looking at the NFL now. Do you think that the NFL has made it right with Kaepernick? Do you think that we have reached a point where, we can move on from Colin Kaepernick at all?
Well, I think we're at a point where we need to move on from Colin Kaepernick. I've been of the opinion for this. I don't ever want something for somebody more than they want it for themselves. And I think that Colin, in some regards, has become people's standing post. So, for example, people use Colin to make a bigger point that's more or less their point than Colin's point. I got a good friend of mine who played in the league for a lot of years, and he said that, I don't feel like he says he doesn't feel like Colin ever signed up for all of this, but it's just a position he's been put in by both sides. On one side, you have the, kind of the conservative media that's saying he's disrespectful, he's doing this, he's doing that, mischaracterizing a lot of things he's done. Meanwhile, on our side of it, you also have a lot of people who are saying Colin stands for all of these things and for all of these issues. And I think he does, but I really think that the reality of it is that he stands somewhere in the middle. Because there were some things there where, Colin had an extra year on that contract that he opted out of, and that was going to put him into a situation where this whole thing could play out. Now, do I think he did that because it was a master plan for him to expose the league? No, I don't think it's that. I think that he was also a guy that was riding some pretty good publicity at that time. And there was a lot of opportunities to be able to cash in on that. But a quick story about Colin, while we're talking about Capitals, obviously, it's no secret about Colin's allegiance in Greek life. I interviewed Colin in 2018, right after the Super Bowl, for our publication, the Cap Outside Journal. And we spent some time talking before the interview started. And one thing I will say about him is that he is 100% genuine guy. Like, I've interviewed a lot of people in my career, but he asked a lot of questions. He offered up a lot of information, a lot more than a lot of athletes would. So the one thing I won't ever let anybody tell me about him is that he's not sincere in his convictions. And that was the thing that really stood out to me when he had that tryout. Was that last year before last, whatever it was, is that I never got the feeling that Colin was there to get back into the league. I felt like Colin was there to highlight the inequities of what that problem was and the situation that he had gotten to. Because I think that if Colin really, really wanted to be in the league himself, he would have played the game that day. He would have threw where things were designated at. He would have took the jobs that would have come with that. He wouldn't have went away from where the teams were and made them come to him. I think that he was just trying to highlight how the league was still stacking the deck against his success, even at a time where it looked like it should have been on his side. So I don't think you can make it right. I think you just have to move forward. I'm not going to be stuck in 2017 with my look at the league. And one reason I never left outside the fact that it's part of my job to follow it is that it really concerned me that so many Black people were leaving the league. But this is a league that has a 58% Black population. And I refuse to allow it to leave the eyes of my eyes as a Black reporter and as a Black journalist to not be there to tell a story of them people and just make it to be an even whiter side when it needs us to be there during times like that, no matter how hard of a pill it is to swallow.
I think that's a good point, because what I really feel like is, as an attorney, and this is entirely biased as an attorney, is that once you settle, it's over. You got everything that you wanted to get out of the deal, because that's a bargain for exchange. So if you had really wanted a position back in the league, your all-white team of attorneys could have negotiated for that. They could have negotiated for the terms of your tryouts and how it would be, and you could have been in control of all of that. And so when you walk into a negotiation and you don't ask for any of those things, like you said, that to me means that that wasn't important to you. That wasn't on the to-do list. And so I feel like it's time for us to move on from Colin Kaepernick as a martyr, because whatever the NFL should have done for him, they did in that settlement. And whatever they should do for everybody else is what we should be focusing on now, because he's gotten what he asked for. He's gotten everything that he bargained for in exchange, and for the money that he received, and all the money that his white attorneys received, all the money that his white attorneys received. Yeah, I'll say it twice for the record, but I feel like he negotiated for that. So
say it again, because like that's a big problem, you know.
And that's generational wealth in those white communities that could have been in a Black community. So he made choices. So he can't be my martyr. He can't be my spokesperson. I don't care about anything that happens with Kaepernick moving forward, but that's just me.
Wow. Yeah. No, I'm with you. You know, it's somebody that, like I said, was not with the boycott, because kind of like Matt was saying, the league is overwhelmingly Black. And so not only does, like he said, somebody needs to be there to tell their stories, but that's like turning your back on. There's a lot of guys in the league who are doing a lot of positive things with the money that they make within their communities. They're employing half of the stadium staff is Black folk. I mean, you know, you go to the stadium and half the people that are working the concession, all that stuff, they're Black folk. So, you know, it to me it was bigger than Colin Kaepernick. I definitely understood, and I understood what he was coming from, and I definitely was with him on that. But I just couldn't. I wasn't going to turn my back on the NFL, you know, quit watching it because of that. You could do both simultaneously. To me, I thought you could.
And yeah, I agree. And that's kind of with me. Like in the beginning, I was all for Colin Kaepernick, and I might have stopped watching for a Sunday or two. But after that, you know, I was just more solution focused. Like, how am I helping the situation by not watching NFL? Like you said, it employs a lot of people. And you made a great point. I was thinking players and coaches, but it's bigger than that. Like you said, the staff, even the parking lot attendants, you know, just everything. People at the concession stand, people that work in the office, people that sell tickets. Like it got to the point where
on the corner,
he said selling t-shirts and tickets. So it got to the point where I felt I think he was really genuine when he first started out, and I still think he is. But I think, like Matt said, it got to the point where that's what he chose to do, and he kind of chose not to play football anymore. Like you said, Erika, like he signed a deal not to play football anymore. So I think we just got to get past, is he going to have a job?
And I think from the sports angle too, you got to get past it. The guy hasn't played in the league in 4 seasons.
Yeah, exactly.
Who leaves the league at 28, 29 years old and then comes back and has a measure of success? And for me, I think that there's nobody ever who needs to make sure that they don't come back and they're bad than Colin. So I'm just at this point, I'm just like, we need to move past it for every possible reason. And least of which, I guess, is the football. Like, it's got to make sense too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I still rock with Cap.
Yeah.
Somewhat. I talked about my problems with, the things he did with that legal team. But I for me, and I think for a lot of other people, it's a matter of principle in terms of watching a brother who stood on his principle be blackballed. And I don't think any one of us can deny that, because if that wasn't the case, then they wouldn't have settled. And we see the hypocrisy of it all when this brother respectfully kneeled, and then we saw those treasonous bastards do what they did on January 6th, and how they disrespected our flag and our country, and the hypocrisy of it all, and how they tarnished that man's name when, we saw when they didn't get their way, what they decided to do. But I got to point out, y'all sounded awful like y'all's boy. Y'all sounded like Jay-Z when Jay-Z was talking about, I think it's time to move past boycotting. And how did that turn out with Jay-Z partnering with the league? We got old terrible the weekend. What was up with that?
Man, that was the best halftime show in a while, man. What are you talking about?
I don't think his performance was terrible. What I think that most
his performance was the hits.
No, I think the people that are criticizing him didn't follow him, and I didn't either, and I didn't know. Like, so they kept showing pictures of him with the bandages and the makeup and stuff, like 2 or 3 weeks ago. And a friend of mine told me about it, so I decided to, take a look at it and see. Like, he's been telling his story for over a year or so. And so I guess if you didn't know that, you would think it was horrible. But it had to do with his drug use, him getting into the car accident, having to have reconstructive surgery. Those bandages was really what he wore just months ago for his face.
What they got to do with the performance, though? They ain't got.
So that's what I'm saying. People didn't know this. It was a story. That
ain't got nothing to do with that. See, and
that story was whack.
And for all
whack.
And for you Jay-Z fans, hold on for a second, Matt. I got to clown my Jay-Z fan because I represent Nas. All y'all was blocking for Jay-Z. We got Shakira and J-Lo and The Weeknd. So how did that work out?
So I'm a J-Lo fan.
Shakira and J-Lo was a fantastic halftime show.
Listen, I felt like that halftime show was good.
That was fantastic.
That was good. The Weeknd was like an acid trip.
I represent for Ashanti.
He want Public Enemy.
When she
he want Public Enemy at halftime. That's not gonna happen.
No, he didn't have none of the smoke for Bruno Mars. That little culture.
Hey, Marv, I think
Bruno put it down. Bruno and Beyonce put it down.
Said that my co-host wants the G-Funk All-Star concert at halftime in LA, just like he wanted a Stankonia halftime at Atlanta. So he wants every halftime show to reflect the blackness of that city. So I think that maybe y'all should spend some time chopping it up.
No, he can't, because I'm telling you, he likes Bruno Mars. Tell me that's not a little culture.
In order for Jay-Z to make it right, I need to see Dipset State Property on the stage.
Wait a minute. So we're not giving no credit to the little girl reading the poetry? We're not giving no credit to Jasmine Sullivan? We're not giving no credit to
Amanda Gorman?
Her and Jasmine Sullivan was on the pregame too, doing songs.
Jasmine Sullivan? Who else? Alicia Keys?
Gorman. Oh no, they didn't even get Jasmine Sullivan her own show. She was having to holler over some white dude who I don't even know who he was. So yeah, anyway.
Yeah, it's called Unity, Marv. It can't be all about us.
It's called, like you were saying, you bootlegging albums in the barbershop. They buying albums.
Hey, but let's talk about this. On our last show, Matt, we talked about COVID-19. We talked about the vaccine rollout and try to dispel a lot of the misinformation that has been out about, the vaccine, and really trying to encourage people to be informed when they make their decision on whether or not they're going to get the vaccine, because it's really taking a toll on the Black community. How do you think the NFL handled COVID-19? They were able to get through a whole season. I know that there were some games that were canceled, rescheduled. I mean, I know they had some teams that really struggled with it. What grade would you give the NFL and how they handled COVID-19 with the teams and with the fans?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, what do they say? C's get degrees. You know what I'm saying? So I'd say that. I'd say
These
that.
two,
I'd say
honestly.
at best that is that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they absolutely did by any means necessary kept that season rolling. And I'm gonna say that when the Denver Broncos didn't have a single quarterback, and they said y'all figure something out. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, like they were gonna roll out what was available every week. I will give them credit for really actually early on. If you go back and watch Hard Knocks, I mean, like they were serious. They had the things in play. They did the best that they could with what you have to do from a collective bargaining agreement when you're talking about working through the PA and not really seeing some of the battles that like baseball had and some of the things that are happening with the NBA now. Like they did the best they could because the players just flat weren't going to participate any other way. But I mean, also at the end of the day, I knew the NFL was going to make them boys play no matter what happened, you know, no matter who came out. So I'll give them, I mean, again, you know, the season got done. It was going to happen no matter what. I actually laughed this past week when they were talking about that barber for the Chiefs that was there, and they said they had to pull him because of exposure. I said they could have every player on the Chiefs out there coughing on the Bucks. They're gonna finish the season up at this point. So as a person who's already gotten the first round of the vaccine and is counting the days for the second one, I say that I think it does matter for everybody who has a platform to use it to educate people. At the end of the day, people are going to make their own choice. For me, the logic of the situation says is that there's nothing. There's nothing I could wait more than to get that call to go get it because it didn't. There was nothing that said this is going to harm me. But to each their own to an extent. But I think that we've got a much bigger conversation about collective responsibility and also about how platforms like the NFL can help people get to that point.
I know Roger Goodell said that they're going to open up all the NFL stadiums to be hubs for COVID-19 vaccinations. And I was thinking like, yeah, I bet you will, Roger, because you want people back in those stadiums. You know what I'm saying? So even though it's a good thing, it is a little bit self-serving. I got to get an NFL props. Well, I don't say props. I'll say they did a good job because we saw the drastic measures that the NBA went through, right? They created the bubble and they locked those dudes down and they finished their season, right? So I think I don't know everything, all the protocol that the NFL put into place, but I know there's a lot more people, a lot more coaches, a lot more players in general, a lot more staff for them to have to keep track of and to try to make sure that they kept people somewhat safe. So I think the fact that, they were able to get through a season, I'll give them props on that because that couldn't have been an easy thing to do.
Well, you got a direct parallel to see how bad it could have went. Look at college football. Yeah. I mean, imagine if that was the NFL. But they did it better. They got more resources, obviously, but that's a lot of young brothers to get bought in on things like that. And it could have went a lot worse, but I think the NFL really was aided by the fact that it's still an event sport and that you really got to just be ready to go once a week. Even if that once a week gets slid from Sunday to Wednesday in some cases, I mean, you still just got to get ready once a week. So.
Yeah. And, it's funny you mentioned that because as, the Chiefs, man, we typically, you look for that Sunday noon game, but because they had all the primetime games and the COVID cancellations and moving, they might have had 2 noon games all year. Everything else was just slid around to Tuesdays and Thursdays and Mondays. So also, I think what helped the NFL as opposed to the NBA. So these cats in the NBA got guaranteed contracts. So, to them, it's not as big of a deal. But when your average player is in the NFL for 3 years, and there's a lot of cats that play 3 years and barely make $1 million in that 3 years combined, they like, man, I'm not losing this year my peak earning potential. I'm gonna stay at home. I'm only on the road literally one night a week. NBA, they're gone typically 4 nights a week. NFL, you're gone. They don't go out on the road. All you can do is curtail you're going out during the week. And I think a lot of them were like, hey, I got to get this bread.
See?
Yeah, and it's played outside too, so that helped. I was gonna say it was glorious that the Raiders spent all that money on that stadium and couldn't even use it.
Spoken like a real Chiefs fan.
I'm gonna be there next year.
Hey, but while y'all playing, that Raider Stadium is off the chain. I haven't been inside it, but from the outside, you drive and you see it. That mug is dope.
Well, Lav, you talk about that Sunday noon game. Part of that is also called the spoils of victory because you're a Super Bowl champion. So you got to play in some different time slots just to throw that out there. But also, there's no shortage of people over here on the east side of the state in St. Louis who were more than happy to see Stan Kroenke's palace not be able to be populated. So it was a year for petty victories too, but victories all the same.
Yeah. So before we go, like I said, most of us are Chiefs fans. Real quick, we'll go around the horn. What were your thoughts on the game? We'll go ahead and Lav. Start with you, man. What was your thoughts on the game, man?
Man, I tell you what, man. All you can say is Tampa outplayed them. I mean, there's really no. I mean, they outplayed them thoroughly. It's not even close. I mean, I heard people saying about the refs. Okay, let's just hypothetically say the refs gave them 3 touchdowns. You ain't scoring 9 points and winning any game in the NFL. They just were outclassed. I mean, that's just what happened. You win some, you lose some. Hey, good luck. Hey, Tom Brady's the GOAT. I mean, I can't. You gotta admit it. If you can't say that right now, then I can't take you're not credible for anything else with football. You're not willing to admit Tom Brady's the GOAT quarterback for real.
I'm not willing to admit Tom Brady's anything because of his allegiance with 45. I just won't say anything. I just won't say anything, but I can't give him props. I'll say this as a former offensive lineman, when I saw how they were having to move the left guard to the left tackle, the starting left tackle, starting right tackle was off. I mean, I said that right to my wife. I said, ooh, moving the guard to tackle, that ain't what you want to do during the Super Bowl. And you can see Mahomes was under pressure the whole game. And Todd Bowles put together an excellent defensive plan. I think Andy Reid even said that. Him and Bieniemy, they couldn't make adjustments. But I think the tail of the tape was the offensive line. And when you make that big of an adjustment in the biggest game of the year, there's really no way that you're really going to win. And let's keep it real. They shut down Tyreek Hill. They shut down Hill. And a lot of those cats, you got to give it to Mahomes. Dude played his behind off.
He did.
He made some throws where cats just flat out dropped it.
Yeah.
He just flat out dropped it. So I don't know what
touchdowns. Two touchdowns got dropped.
For real. So Arika, go ahead. You look like you're going nuts over there. Go ahead.
Oh my God, I'm having like a whole aneurysm over here. No, I disagree with you, and we might not even be able to be friends after this. But no, Brady is not the GOAT. He's the greatest cheater on earth. So, I mean, he's mastered throwing deflated footballs and paying off reps, but I don't know what else he's mastered besides being old and married.
Spies everywhere, right? Don't forget Spy Game.
And you say, how can you put 14 points? Take away those 14 points, you got a game. What the refs did was they like deflated the Chiefs like momentum and their drive. Like they took the steam out of that engine with those points, and then they try to give us a couple little BS makeup points at the end. But no, the refs, for a fact those pass interference calls were not pass interference calls. That ball wasn't even catchable. That whole game, it was the Brady, let's see how we can help this white boy cheat himself to the all-time
victory. What I'm saying is that's selective memory, because there was a third down, they were getting off the field, and Chris Jones made a bonehead play to give them 15 in the first down. There was offsides on one of them. They took the field goal off the board, gave them a first down, and then they scored a touchdown. So
but that's not selective memory. If the ball's not catchable, then that's not pass interference, right or wrong.
But who calls an offsides on a kick though, Lav? That's not a typical call.
If you're offside, you're offside.
On a kick, it wasn't.
But what I'm saying is
that
punt,
but not a kick.
The refs let people play all game. There are mistakes. You can call a foul every single play of every single football game. And everybody who's ever played football or everybody who's ever been a football fan knows that. What you do is you let people play, and you let them play, especially in the Super Bowl, unless you've got my man Brady throwing the deflated football through the air to his whack ass Gronk, whatever, to try to win the old man Super Bowl of the year. Patrick Mahomes was playing the game of his life with a broken toe and hitting people in the face, and they wasn't catching it. But if the refs hadn't taken his team out the game, then it would have been a different game. All I'm saying is that Brady is a different caliber of player, not because of who Brady is, but because of the momentum he brings from the crowd and from the refs and from that whole, we want our white savior to be our white savior. And you can't deny that. Patrick Mahomes is the second coming.
Hey, so let's do this. So hold on, Lav. I know you could go all day.
I know, he's a beast though.
So let's get Steve to give her thoughts, and then we're gonna let Matt bring his in.
So I was gonna say, I'm typically not the one that like tries to blame games on refs, but I will say that Brady is just one of those people that is going to get a call. I mean, we saw that with D Ford a couple years ago. Like, if there is an offsides or anything and Brady has the ball, he's going to get the call. But I don't think that was why Kansas City lost. I think that they didn't make the proper adjustments that they needed to the second half. They didn't come out like trying to run the ball. They didn't try to come out and do anything different. They still was trying to like air it out. And then you made a good point, Marv, about them having to change positions. That makes sense, because my first thought was that our offensive line is too slow. And I'm like, so are these big, slow offensive linemen, is that kind of an outdated position like a center in the NBA right now? Do we need to go smaller, faster? But if they were just playing out of position, that makes more sense. But I just know that they was getting beat. I didn't know what else to do. And then Andy, I think, probably had a whole lot on his mind. So he mentally wasn't there. Like, his son kind of like took him out the game a little. I mean, as a parent, I don't care how old your kid is. I don't care how many times he's been in trouble. The way that was just floating around Kansas City with the GoFundMe and on everybody's page and national news, he couldn't have been in his right mind. I mean,
they said today that they subpoenaed the son's cell phone and got it on Saturday. So who knows? They say he was on the phone before the cops got. He might have been talking to Andy Reid, and Andy might have been like, "Oh man, he caught up into the middle of it."
So I'll say this, bringing it back. There was an expert commentator that said he found it very suspicious that the league has been letting pass interference really be called, letting the Cats play, but then during that drive, they decided to tighten up the calls, and it was that one play. It wasn't a catchable ball; it was very far away, and it was motivation. It wasn't motivation. It was a momentum killing call. But again, there was plays that they made, and then the offensive line is decimated like that. Going from left guard to left tackle, it ain't easy. It is not easy, and that's that. You put somebody in that position, that's tough. But Matt, you're the expert. We'll give you the last word on it before we end the show.
Well, I mean, you're very kind with that title, but man, I had no horse in the race on Sunday. I just had money on the line. So a couple of years ago, I was in Green Bay for the Dez Bryant game. Where about the catch and about if it's a continuation or not. Those balls in the air, man, it gets hairy. That's a tough call to make in a hurry. If you go back a couple of years ago with the Rams and the Saints, you had a similar situation where, it changed the course of the game. It doesn't surprise me when calls like that happen. I scored both of those passes on that drive 50-50. The Mike Evans one, I've seen that play happen 20 times this year and go in the favor of it happened and it went in the favor of the pass interference getting called. That didn't surprise me that they called that. That seemed like part of the course. The one that they threw on the other side of the field, that one I was like, that's kind of sketch. But with that being said, here's what I'm going to give Tom Brady. He doesn't make mistakes when you don't need to make them in that particular game. And he did a great job of making the play that needed to happen when it needed to happen. I mean, he just did that. He's an easy target to hate, but I got to give him his credit. He did what he had to do. And also the bus
also a worthy target to hate. But go ahead.
Well, hey, if you want to go back in time, he took a title away from my city too, but that was a long time ago. But you know, it's they did the smart thing. They just ran Fournette. You know, Lab, I remember when we were watching the game, whatever week that was, talking about what the Chiefs need to do. It better be a linebacker.
Yeah,
It better
it gotta
be a
be.
linebacker.
Man. We talked about it. You're right. We talked about it.
There's a young man that's not too far away from Kansas City by the name of Nick Bolton down at the alma mater.
Yeah.
Bring him in, put him in the middle of it, because the
Yes.
Chiefs are too easy to run up the gut against. We saw it all year, and the Bucs just said they were going to do that. However, you know, I remember when Eric Fisher got drafted, and there was some, who is this guy? You know, what is that?
Yeah.
Eric Fisher showed his value on Sunday.
Did. Yep.
The Bucs 2 weeks in a row, you know, between the Packers and between the and between the Chiefs, got a chance to exploit teams that lost that offensive tackle, that lost that starting tackle, and it made a difference. It was a great game. They got called by Ty Bowles, and they just didn't make mistakes on the other side of the field. Because, I mean, no matter how great Pat Mahomes is, and he is great, he is maybe the most naturally talented quarterback I've ever seen in my life, but that doesn't mean nothing when you're running for 500 yards. I think the number was 497 yards he had to run just to try to make the plays that he did. It just didn't work out. And I think that's, let's bring it full circle to something we talked about earlier. I'm going to give credit to that being a total win by the Bucs. It was a coaching win. It was an athletic win by their defense. And they also won the mental game too, because early in that third quarter, I looked at the Chiefs and I said, man, they look like they're getting tired of what's happening and they don't have the answers for it. And it just didn't work out. But, you know, the thing I said is that you really appreciate that climb to the top when you get there and you have the other outcome. So we're going to see what the Chiefs do now. We're going to learn about who they are as a franchise now that they've shown that it's not, you know, it's not unstoppable. And you got to go through some of these perils in order to get back to the top sometime.
Well, Matt, man, we appreciate you, fellow Mizzou alumni. Go ahead and tell them how they can find you, bro.
Yeah, man, absolutely. You know, I was telling everybody before the show, I feel like I got a conspiracy going on with my Twitter account, but I'm gonna get it back. It's I'm gonna get it and the blue check that comes with it back. It's at Cheap Seat Fan. I'll be back on there soon. But you can find all of our shows. You can find my show, The Scenario Sports, on the SOLC network. You can find the regular Scenario on SOLC network. We're everywhere that you find a podcast at. We're everywhere that on Facebook, you can find us there underneath SOLC network. That stands for Straight Out of Low Cash. So check us out. All Black programming. We touch on politics. We touch on music. We got a pro wrestling show with our boy Ray RVS runs that. So we got something for everybody over there. So check it out.
Yep. Okay, man. Well, hey, like we said, man, thank you for coming on the show. This was a fun show. Really appreciate you.
Hey, gratitude, man.
C, Lab, Marika, I appreciate y'all as always. Glad to have our boy Lab back in the saddle. He was out last week, but you know, we still fam. Everybody make sure you follow the show on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Man Listen Show. Make sure you subscribe to the show on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify. Give us the thumbs up, like, tell everybody about the show. Tell everybody about the blackest radio show on the internet. We'll holler at you next time. Peace.
Peace.
That's my homie.
I feel like I'm the MVP of this show, man. I'm going to Disneyland.